Yowie mama, Elden Ring looks so awesome. The new gameplay demo makes me so excited for the full release, and the network test that happened a few days ago has already been accompanied by nothing but praise ever since it went live. Man, it looks so cool. You can like dual wield great swords and use a dragon head to kill a skeleton, and a goat can double jump. I believe that's a first for video games. The combat looks nuts in ER, and is looking to be the most advanced combat system in the FromSoft Soulsborne series so far. Is Soulsborne even an accurate title for these games anymore? Souls Ringborn Twice, 2, and 3. Rolls right off the tongue. The progress from Demon Souls all the way up through Dark Souls and Bloodborne, and even touches and flavorings of Sekiro, make this one spicy meatball. My apologies to the entire nation of Italy. It's Italy, not France. But the combat changes aren't what's giving this game all the attention, but it's the fact that the Souls Ringborn Twice, 2, and 3 series is finally making its big jump into the open world. This is both scary and exciting. The Souls Ringborn, I can't keep saying that. The Souls series has always had a fun, engaging combat system, but the strength of its combat is very dependent on its level and enemy design. The area where you fight and the enemies you're fighting is what drives the Souls game combat to be what it is. Like this early encounter in Dark Souls 1 under the bridge, just this one simple encounter against the standard undead with a shield has been permanently etched into my mind and many other players' minds, because where you're standing, just look at it. You're bumping shields up against an enemy on a ledge that is definitely not sanctioned by Public Works. Yes, you're being fined $1,200 and being given a written reprimand for your violation of public safety. So believe me when I say that the levels and enemies are very important when it comes to the enjoyment of a Souls game, which kinda gets thrown out the window when you're making that jump into the open world. The previous system that they had in place cannot work for this new format, so they have to rebuild the system from the ground up to account for this new open world design. Assassin's Creed is a game franchise you might have heard about. It's a little niche, but you know, you're watching this video, you're probably in the deep recesses of YouTube, so I'm assuming you're kind of a big-time gamer who's played an Assassin's Creed game like me, you know? It has always been an open-world game series, and it was a good one for a while. But when a new sequel comes out and it's using the same format as the old one, it still works, so let's just tweak it until it fits the new game. And then they did it again, and 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 not again, and again, and again, until we're into the late 2020 and we still have the same gameplay style that has been in use for over 14 years. And it's busted up, full of holes, but it's still functional enough to sell. Assassin's Creed never had to reevaluate its core fundamentals, because it's just been stuck in that format for years. It's the same with pretty much any Ubisoft title that comes out. But when a studio is taking a franchise into a new type of format, they know that what they had won't work for the new game. They, unlike other open world games, need to reevaluate their core mechanics, and this thoughtful, introspective look at themselves always brings out the best elements. But just like Elden Ring, what makes it exciting is that this isn't the first game to make that jump from a linear level design to a big open world. Metal Gear Solid 5 is the culmination of all the previous Metal Gear games in one. Its jump from linear stealth sections to a full tactical espionage Afghan simulation game is nearly flawless. The close-ranged and corner-peeking gameplay of previous Metal Gear games seemed to me to be the trickiest form of gameplay to transition into an open-world game. It's extremely reliant on sightlines and small windows of opportunity. So how does this go to this? Well, there is an answer, it's just tricky to do. First, you have to hid a yo
freaking Kojima.
I'm not sure how they did the transition from tight halls to wide open fields and pull it off with some of the smoothest and buttery gameplay. Is buttery even a term? I don't know. It is now. I'm copywriting it. I'm copywriting it before any of you kids get froggy. The way the game handles that jump is expertly done and shows just how much they had to reinvent the wheel, or gear in this case. Taking all of the best ideas from the series and creating something that feels elevated above all of those things. How the control of your character went from stiff and precise to flowing and smooth. You could tell Kojima went wild while making this game, because he just stuffed it with all of the little things that he thought of years ago and is just cranking them into the game now. Like, the Fulton balloon system from Peace Walker is expanded here and is very satisfying. It's a very itchy, scratchy game. What? The interrogations from the past games have been revamped to almost a necessity now, rather than the optional Easter egg stuff that it was before. The days of sitting in the back of trucks to be driven somewhere else are gone. Now you can just shoot the driver in the head and take the car for yourself. Why did it take so long for anybody to think of that? The allies that you could use in MGS4 seemed kind of like an underbaked, underutilized mechanic, but here are so fleshed out and has so many different ways to express yourself in gameplay. Every player has their favorite companion. Either it's the dog, or the horse, or the robot, or the booze. Being able to take advantage of the newfound open space to recon a base before infiltrating is such a simple and satisfying process. The game could have brought that same level of depth from the small corridors of MGS games past to the new open world, but they decided to make all new systems inspired by the old ones to still maintain the spirit, but play and function very differently. There's almost an advantage to being a linear game beforehand, because then when you make that jump, you bring all of the ideas that were just impossible before. The open world is where dreams become reality. It's where dreams become a fantasy? Final Fantasy 15 isn't perfect. I played a ton of Final Fantasy 15 and it's really good, but it's not quite there to be the fantastic game that it hyped itself up to be. Final Fantasy has always had some open-ended elements, but it's still and always has been a strictly linear experience. This culminating with Final Fantasy 13 being chokingly linear and kind of being torn to shreds critically. But with FF15, they pulled out all the stops and making a big, beautiful open world. The game's environments look so good, and it helps to capture the feeling of being in nature. Previous games had you go from a wide range of different levels to help you piece the world together, but what makes Final Fantasy 15 so interesting is that you don't have to go from level to level anymore. You can just drive there. It's the first open world game where you traverse the world in the most relatable way possible, by sitting in the back of a car.
That's some next gen shit.
In every other open world game, you get around by running, riding a horse, fast traveling, recklessly driving a car, or maybe even web slinging on the odd occasion. But here, you just relax and sit in a car and watch the trees pass by. It's a very laid-back approach to the genre. It has a very enjoyable meditation to it. The actual running and walking stuff is really fun too. Having enemies appear from dropships is an interesting way to spawn different enemy types. The expansion from Final Fantasy enemy encounters to just random encounters in the open world is a very smooth way about making that transition. Going on hunting trips looking for your bounties always helps encourage you to go on foot and look for your prey. And of course, getting on the back of a chocobo while riding around the open world is just as satisfying as you hoped it would be from seeing chocobos in the past. But it does feel kind of conventional at times. Sometimes awkward as you try to jump up the side of rocks. It railroads you into staying on the ground a lot of the time. It's afraid of giving you the whole pizza, but it's content with just giving you the toppings. It's not that bad if you're a fan of sausage and pineapple on your za, which I do. I like pineapple on pizza, and I will fight you for it. But if you wanted a previously linear open world game that allowed you to go anywhere you want and climb on anything you want, then you won't like The Witcher 3 that much. I haven't played The Witcher 3, but I'm aware that it did make some minor jump to being a more open world, as opposed to the still open, but not exactly open of the first two. I'm not entirely sure, I haven't played them. I'm just doing this bit to subvert the expectations of you thinking I'm gonna say Breath of the Wild. You've seen a video essay before, you know how this works. But if you did want to hear me talk about Breath of the Wild, then you'll be very happy to hear me talk about Red Dead Redemption. The first Red Dead game was just a linear action-adventure game that nobody played, but then Rockstar picked up the license and made Red Dead an open-world game, and a fantastic one at that. But that's more of a reinvention of a dead IP rather than a sequel. That's why it would be perfect for me to talk about Bowser's Fury. An open-world Mario game could potentially rise from this. I played like 30 hours of Bowser's Fury and loved every second of it. The game is only like 3 hours long. I put more time into Bowser's Fury than I did the entirety of Mario 3D World. To imagine a massive open world Mario game on the horizon, somebody call the police. That game was made by Nintendo though, right? Gee, I wonder if there are any other Nintendo games that have made the jump to open world. Oh yeah, there's Kid Icarus. Wait, they didn't do that.
Breath of the Wild!
The Legend of Zelda has always been known for that sense of adventure, that sense of going into the great unknown and exploring the world. But for a while, Zelda games, as beloved as they are, were growing the reputation of being very linear and very hand-holdy? Is that a word? Culminating in Skyward Sword being the most linear Zelda there was. Also, in my personal opinion, being one of the best and most imaginative Zelda games with an engaging and interesting story with some of the best Zelda characters that have ever been. Some of the most fun, creative, and best designed Zelda dungeons in the series, but everybody crapped on it because it wasn't as open as they wanted it to be, even though the game is perfectly designed around its more linear design. Anyway, Nintendo wanted to recapture the inspiration of the original Zelda back on the NES, that one being of childlike exploration and wonder. So then came Breath of the Wild, to redirect its focus on exploring the open world. Since this was Zelda's first venture into the open world, they were able to come at it from a completely new and fresh perspective, rather than following the formula set by the previous games in the series. Then, almost overnight, by some miracle, they managed to almost redefine the open world genre in its first attempt. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, I feel, will go down as one of the most influential games of this generation. Many games have already steered course to pull itself more in line of the standard that Breath of the Wild has created, where ideas like climbing on any surface or using elemental reactions felt impossible now seemed obvious after Breath of the Wild. It made it look so easy and effortless to make that transition. It takes all of the elements of Zelda and effortlessly weaves them into one of the most enjoyable open world games ever. It takes the stamina bar from Skyward Sword, the glider from Wind Waker, and the annoying characters from Twilight Princess. I like Breath of the Wild a lot. I think it's good. Very enjoyable. Great, even. But, this game is overrated as fuck. Okay, I tried keeping this video about how linear game series make the jump into open world and all of the interesting and cool ways they go about doing that, but I think I'm just going to turn this video into a rant about why I think Breath of the Wild is one of the most overrated games since Dark Souls. Just like Dark Souls, they're both really good, some of my favorites, but they're hyped to hell and back and are seen as the second coming of Christ in video game form. It's at the point where I can say they're really good and a lot of fun, and it can still be seen as blasphemy, as both fans of these franchises continuously ignore the big and very real problems and pretend that it's a flawless masterpiece. Yeah, Breath of the Wild has some of the best exploration in any game, but it also has the weakest story in the series, combat that's 15 years old, uninteresting side quests, boring characters, bad dungeons, unmemorable boss fights, lousy loot systems, and a lame exploitable upgrade system. I don't care how much fun it is to climb on a hill and then fly back down it, it doesn't excuse these massive gaping holes in Breath of the Wild that would be death sentences for any other game. But this one is The Legend of Zelda, so it gets a free pass. Also, Mario Odyssey really should have won Game of the Year at the Game Awards, but it lost out to Breath of the Wild. Yes, I'm still bitter about it 4 years later. Rant over. I'm done with you, Breath of the Wild. I swear to God, if Breath of the Wild 2 is the same dang game... So when I see a beloved franchise take that big jump into an open world, it kind of fills me with hope. The hope that the innovation of the series will continue and expand upon its ideas, and not just recycle the old ones and churn out another product. So yeah, I'm looking forward to Elden Ring. It's probably going to be great, but you know what I really want to see? Smash Brothers but open world, like in 3D, and the only character is Sora, and rename it Kingdom Hearts Breath of the Wild 2.8. What are some other games that have made that bold jump that I didn't mention here? Because honestly, if they have made that jump, I would kind of like to play them, because they're probably pretty good. Thanks for watching the video. I appreciate you sticking to the end. If you liked the video, just say, hey, that was a good video, and then go, okay, I'm gonna go eat pizza now. And then you close your computer or you turn off your phone and you go and eat pizza. Go eat pizza. Go eat some pizza, okay?